Alexander the Great died at 32. His empire stretched from Greece to India, 3 continents, millions of subjects, the largest kingdom ever built. His generals didn't mourn, they drew their swords. Because the empire didn't fall to Persian armies or Indian war elephants, it was torn apart by the men who helped build it. The brothers in arms who fought beside Alexander for 13 years turned on each other the moment his eyes closed. 3 generals would destroy everything in a 40-year bloodbath. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Antigonus. Names you've never heard, but they unleashed the most brutal power struggle in ancient history. And the real twist? Alexander saw it coming. Babylon, 323 BCE. Alexander lay dying in the royal palace, fever consuming him. His generals crowded the room. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Perdiccas, Antigonus, men who'd conquered the world at his side. They weren't there to say goodbye. They were there to hear one answer. Who inherits the greatest kingdom ever built? The sources disagree on what Alexander said. Some claim he whispered, "to the strongest." Others say he handed his signet ring to Perdiccas. Some historians believe he said nothing at all, too weak to speak, watching his generals circle like wolves. It didn't matter, because every man in that room made the same calculation. Friendship meant nothing. Loyalty was a lie. Only power mattered. But here's what terrified them. No one was strong enough to hold it alone. Alexander had spent 13 years building an empire that required his personal genius to function. His charisma held together Greeks and Persians. His tactical brilliance won impossible battles. His sheer will forced enemies to surrender. Without him, the empire was a powder keg. 3 men emerged from the chaos. Ptolemy, the strategist. He'd been Alexander's childhood friend, his most trusted general. He understood that survival meant choosing the right piece of the empire, not the whole thing. Seleucus, the survivor. Younger than the others, underestimated, patient. He watched and waited while bigger egos destroyed themselves. Antigonus, the ruthless. One-eyed, brutal, convinced he could reunite Alexander's kingdom by force. He was 60 years old and willing to drown the world in blood to prove he was the strongest. The moment Alexander's eyes closed, the knives came out. Within days, the targets were clear. Alexander's half-brother Philip, mentally disabled, barely able to speak. His wife Roxana, pregnant with his son. His mother Olympias, back in Macedonia. Every person with a drop of royal blood became a pawn or a corpse. Because whoever controlled Alexander's family controlled his legitimacy, and legitimacy was the only thing more valuable than an army. The generals made a temporary arrangement. Philip would be king in name. Roxana's unborn child would be co-ruler if it was a boy. Perdiccas would be regent, the man who ruled in their name. It was a lie. Everyone knew it. The arrangement lasted exactly as long as it took each general to position his forces. Then Ptolemy made his move, and it was brilliant. Alexander's body was being transported from Babylon to Macedonia for burial. A massive funeral procession, gold and jewels, hundreds of soldiers. The journey would take months. Ptolemy intercepted it in Syria. He didn't ask permission. He didn't negotiate. He stole Alexander's corpse and took it to Egypt. The other generals were stunned. This wasn't just disrespect. It was a declaration of war. Because whoever controlled Alexander's body controlled his legitimacy. Possession of the corpse meant you were the true heir. Ptolemy was claiming Egypt as his kingdom and Alexander as his divine ancestor. The wars of the Diadochi erupted. Diadochi means successors in Greek. The name sounds clean. The reality was 40 years of non-stop betrayal and slaughter. Perdiccas, the regent, immediately marched on Egypt to retrieve the body. Ptolemy was ready. The Nile Delta became a killing field. Perdiccas lost thousands of men trying to cross the river. His own officers murdered him in his tent. The first of Alexander's successors was dead within 2 years. Seleucus watched from the east. He'd been given Babylon as his territory, the heart of the old Persian Empire. While the others fought over Alexander's corpse, Seleucus quietly built an army. He made alliances with local Persian nobles. He married a Persian princess. He learned to wait. Antigonus had no patience. He was the oldest, the most experienced, the most brutal. He controlled Asia Minor and believed he could reunite the entire empire by force. He started crushing anyone in his path. One by one, Alexander's family was murdered. His half-brother Philip, killed by Olympias, Alexander's own mother, in a bid for power. Then Olympias herself, executed by Cassander, another general who wanted Macedonia. Roxana and her son, Alexander IV, were kept alive. Barely. They were moved from prison to prison, symbols of legitimacy that nobody dared kill yet. The boy was 6 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, watching generals slaughter each other in his father's name. The wars spread across 3 continents: Egypt, Persia, Greece, Asia Minor. Every major city became a battlefield. Antigonus won battle after battle, his one eye scanning the field, his armies crushing resistance. But he couldn't win them all, because the other generals realized something. If they fought each other, Antigonus would pick them off one by one. But if they united against him, they could destroy the man trying to become the next Alexander. The Battle of Ipsus, 301 BCE. Antigonus was 80 years old. He faced a coalition army led by Seleucus and Lysimachus, 500 war elephants, 70,000 infantry, the largest battle since Alexander's death. Antigonus died on the field, cut down by javelins, his dream of reuniting the empire dying with him. But the most shocking betrayal was still to come. Alexander IV was 14 years old enough to rule, old enough to be dangerous. Cassander, who controlled Macedonia, made the decision. The last legitimate heir to Alexander the Great was quietly murdered. Roxana too, both poisoned, their bodies buried in unmarked graves. The generals had spent 20 years fighting over who would protect Alexander's legacy. Then they murdered his only son to make sure nobody could challenge them. By the time the dust settled, nothing remained of Alexander's vision. 3 kingdoms stood where one empire had been. Ptolemaic Egypt, ruled by Ptolemy's dynasty, the richest, safest, most stable. Ptolemy had chosen wisely. Egypt had natural borders, the Nile's wealth, and Alexander's body as the ultimate symbol of legitimacy. Seleucid Persia, ruled by Seleucus and his heirs. The largest kingdom, stretching from Syria to India. Seleucus had survived by being patient, by adapting, by outlasting everyone else. He died at 77, murdered by another general's son. Antigonid Macedonia, ruled by Antigonus's descendants after Cassander's line died out. The poorest, most fought-over territory. The homeland that had conquered the world was now just another kingdom. Each claimed to be Alexander's true successor. Each used his name, his image, his legend. But they'd destroyed everything he built. The psychological warfare was perfect. They fought in his name while ensuring no one could ever unite what he created. They built temples to him while murdering his family. They claimed his legacy while making sure that legacy could never threaten their power. The cost was staggering. Millions dead across 40 years of war. Cities burned, cultures crushed. Alexander had dreamed of blending Greek and Persian civilization into something new. His generals made sure Greeks and Persians stayed enemies. The irony cuts deep. Alexander conquered the known world in 13 years. His generals spent 40 years tearing it apart. They succeeded because they learned from him. His tactics, his ruthlessness, his ambition, his willingness to sacrifice anything for victory. Alexander created the ultimate war machine. His generals turned it on each other. The empire that should have lasted centuries died in a generation, not because of external enemies, not because of rebellion, but because the men who built it with Alexander couldn't imagine sharing it without him. These weren't strangers. They were brothers in arms who'd fought together from Greece to India. They'd saved each other's lives in battle. They'd celebrated victories together. They'd mourned fallen comrades together. And the moment Alexander died, they chose power over everything else. The empire that should have lasted centuries died in a generation. These weren't enemies. They were brothers in arms who chose power over loyalty. If this brutal saga of ambition and betrayal has left you wanting more untold stories from history's darkest moments, explore the other videos on this channel. Subscribe for more high-intensity deep dives into the conflicts that shaped our world. Leave a comment. Which of these three generals was the most ruthless? Ptolemy, who stole the body? Seleucus, who outlasted them all? Or Antigonus, who tried to drown the world in blood?